Sometimes it only takes one moment, not a lifetime, not 1,000 plans. Just one heartbeat where you choose courage over fear. And in that single choice, everything changes. Her name was Rachel Torres. She grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, in a working-class neighborhood where people worked hard, kept their heads down, and rarely dreamed bigger than survival. Rachel wasn't the loudest, the smartest, or the most confident. She was shy, quiet, always the one to let others speak first. In high school, she loved writing but never showed anyone her notebooks. She stuffed them in drawers, terrified of what people might think. By 25, Rachel worked as a cashier at a grocery store. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't her dream. Every beep of the scanner reminded her she was watching life pass by instead of living it. She wanted to write. She wanted to speak. She wanted to matter. But fear always whispered louder. What if you fail? What if they laugh? Rachel's life was safe, predictable, but it was also suffocating. She watched her friends move on, starting businesses, getting degrees, chasing passions. Meanwhile, she stacked shelves and hid her stories in notebooks. The fear wasn't just about writing. It was about being seen. She remembered middle school when she'd read a poem out loud and a classmate had snickered, "That's cheesy." That one moment of mockery became a chain. So Rachel played small. She let fear dictate her life. And every night, when she closed the register drawer, she felt the quiet ache of wasted potential. Then came the night that changed everything. Her best friend, Maya, dragged her to an open mic night at a tiny coffee shop downtown. Rachel sat in the back, clutching her notebook like a shield. One by one, people went up. Some stumbled, some soared. None were perfect, but all of them were brave. Maya nudged her and whispered, "Go, read one." Rachel's heart pounded. "No way, I can't." But then, something clicked. She realized fear was always there. But maybe, just maybe, courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was choosing anyway. So she stood up, notebook shaking in her hands, feet heavy like stone. And for the first time in her life, Rachel walked toward the microphone. Her voice trembled as she began. The first line almost cracked. But then she saw one girl in the front row nodding along, eyes soft with connection. Rachel's breathing steadied. Her words grew stronger. When she finished, there was silence. Then applause. Not thunderous, not world-shaking, but real. And in that moment, Rachel's life shifted. She had faced the fear that had caged her for years. And she realized, if I can do this once, I can do it again. That one moment became the catalyst. Week 1, Rachel returned to the open mic, still shaky, but braver. A month 3, she started a blog, posting her poems and reflections. At first, only 10 people read them, then 100, then 1,000. Year 1, she self-published a collection of poems. It wasn't a bestseller, but it was hers, and people wrote to her saying, "Your words saved me." A year 2, she began speaking at schools, telling students about fear, failure, and courage. Rachel wasn't suddenly fearless, but she had learned the secret: courage compounds. Every small act stacked on the one before. At 29, Rachel was invited to give a talk at a regional conference for educators. Hundreds of people, a real stage. Backstage, fear whispered again, "You're still that cashier. You don't belong here." But Rachel remembered that coffee shop, that trembling moment when she chose to stand. So she walked on stage, heart pounding, and shared her story. When she finished, the audience stood to their feet. A standing ovation. One teacher came up afterward and said, "I'm going to encourage my students differently because of you. You changed the way I see them." Rachel cried, because in that moment, she knew. One act of courage can ripple out and change lives far beyond your own. So what's the point? Rachel wasn't special. She wasn't fearless. She was just willing once to act in courage. And that single act rewrote her life. Here's what you can take today. 1. Courage isn't big. It's often a tiny step. Raising your hand, hitting publish, speaking up. 2. Courage compounds. One act builds another, stacking into transformation. 3. Courage creates ripple effects. Your bravery can inspire others to be brave too. So, friend, maybe you've been sitting on your dream. Maybe fear has been louder than your hope. But remember Rachel. Remember the girl who once sat in the back, called her words cheesy, and almost stayed silent forever. It only took one moment of courage, and it changed everything. If this story lit a spark in you, hit like, drop a comment about the moment of courage you'll choose today, and subscribe for more stories that remind you your courage could change everything. Just like Nelson Mandela once said, that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear.